I'm Jim Clyburn. I proudly represent the 6th Congressional District of South Carolina, and I'm very proud to be a sponsor of Blue Jamboree 2020.
I am so excited to welcome y'all to the 10th annual Blue Jamboree. While this is clearly a different kind of Blue Jam than we're used to, it's actually made it possible for us to do things we've never imagined. In this format, we're going to be able to reach more of our fellow Democrats than ever before, and hopefully inspire them to join us as we turn out our friends and neighbors to vote blue up and down the ballot. Can any of us remember a more important election in our lifetime? The energy of our local Democrats will be on full display over the next 2 hours. And you're going to meet the candidates whose names you will see on your ballot in every open race in Charleston County. We're going to share the bold vision of our candidates as they take on the most important issues we face in this election: education, social justice, the environment, and health care. You're going to meet some amazing women who are leading the charge to continue turning South Carolina blue, and we will bring you the latest on early voting and what all of us need to know in order to make sure that each and every vote counts November 3rd. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on why we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to share with you a very special performance of our national anthem by Grammy Award-winning musician and Charleston legend, Mr. Charlton Singleton.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
una nación bajo Dios,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With liberty and justice for all. As we think about the choices we face in 2020, these words are more poignant than ever. Some of the votes we cast this November 3rd will have a very direct impact on our fight to ensure equal justice for all. If we want to see real change in our community, it matters who the sheriff is. It matters who sets the tone for the department and leads the investigations, and who prosecutes the cases, and who is there at the courthouse ensuring everyone is treated equally and fairly. Today, Republicans hold each of these seats, but there's about to be a new sheriff in town, and a new solicitor, and more. Here now are the Democratic candidates for the 9th Circuit Solicitor, Charleston County Sheriff, Charleston County Coroner, and the Clerk of Court.
I'm attorney Ben Pogue, and I'm running for Ninth Circuit Solicitor, same as District Attorney in Charleston and Berkeley County. Solicitor is in charge of prosecuting serious crimes, but more importantly, in charge of creating a local justice system that is fair for everyone. Our country is reeling from racial bias and police officers killing people of color. Here in Charleston, the failed effort to convict Walter Scott's killer emboldens racist violence. We need a change. Instead, our solicitor's office has only one African-American attorney out of 40. Black jurors are routinely excluded from service at trials. African-American and poor victims are marginalized. People have lost faith in justice. We're less safe because of that. We can change that immediately in one election. I'm a trial attorney, but my experience is in bringing people together. We can hire African-American attorneys, elevate the voices that bring equity and fairness, and keep us all safer. I'm Ben Pogue. I'm running for Ninth Circuit Solicitor. Let's deliver true justice for all, together.
When I was a teenager, my younger sister was kidnapped by a stranger. As the search went on for days, 2 police officers on patrol located my sister in a park with her abductor and brought her home safely. Several years later, when I was a rookie cop, I was proud to call those officers my partners. My name is Kristen Graziano, and I'm running to be the next sheriff of Charleston County. Ever since my sister was found, I've woken up every day committed to protecting and serving my community so no one goes through the pain and fear my family suffered. I want your loved ones to be safe. For 32 years, I have served my community as a law enforcement professional. Now I want to lead the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and make it more accountable to the people we serve and more transparent in our policing and financial practices. Vote for me, Kristen Graziano, on November 3rd. With your support, the Sheriff's Office will work for a safer, stronger community.
Hi, I'm Herbert Fielding. I am a candidate for coroner. I am a U.S. Navy veteran, a funeral home owner, and a veteran administrator. My family has been in the funeral business for over 108 years. Here's what I've learned. Compassion and professionalism are essential to supporting a grieving family. Education can save lives. And yes, experience does matter. Yes, I'm a certified death investigator, but I am the only candidate in this race who has ever saved taxpayers' money. My opponent has a track record of excessive spending that is costing us $2.5 million each year. Together, we must make this office more efficient, more transparent, and more diverse. Democrats, now is our chance to reclaim this seat for the first time in 30 years. When we unite, we win. Please vote for me, Herbert Fielding, for Charleston County Coroner.
Hello, my name is Dan Gregory, and I'm your candidate for Charleston County Clerk of Court. I am running to improve the Clerk of Court's office for all citizens of Charleston County. Just some of my ideas are to create a self-help center area where staff will assist those not represented by an attorney to receive guidance in filling out various forms or completing tasks for simple claims they have before the court. I will advocate for a fair and just criminal justice system as the Clerk of Court. One way to do this is this position allows me to be a voting member on the Charleston County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, which has done great things, but we can do more. In addition, there will be extended hours at the courthouse on some days to give those access for those who don't have the ability to come in during normal business hours to complete their important business with the court. These are just a few of my ideas and issues I will make happen as your next Clerk of Court. I hope to have the honor of your vote on November 3rd, and remember, integrity, transparency, accountability, you deserve no less. You and I can do this together, and we will make things better for all of us. Thank you.
From King Street to Pennsylvania Avenue, the calls for social justice have shined a glaring spotlight on instances of systemic racism and injustice. On November 3rd, it's time for Democrats to answer those calls and vote for systemic change and equal justice for all.
We've been at it for a long period of time. It's time to address the issue.
For those, especially the young people that are fighting and demanding justice, I was them just 5 years ago. After the tragedy of my sister being murdered and a mother, Emmanuel, I was shouting, I was in the streets demanding justice. So my message to all the young people that are out there, continue to fight, and we need to make sure not only do you fight in the streets, but at the ballot box.
I think it's important to remember that social justice is more than just protest and people gathering in the streets and walking with signs. Oftentimes, those are the results of social injustice. Those are not the trigger. Those are the things that happen once people are fed up with not having, there's always this breaking point.
We can have a solicitor's office that not only does justice in terms of people who are offenders and healing the harm to victims, but that reaches out to education, to healthcare, to housing.
I mean, I work in the criminal justice system every day as a public defender, and I think that the thing that is most promising about these protests is the understanding that this is not just about police reform, that this is about investing in communities.
Times are of such a state in America that we cannot remain silent when we see injustices.
How do we make sure that when we look back at 2020, we realize that it was the start of a movement that really addressed these issues in a meaningful way?
Democrats need to understand that we are witnessing a movement that has been going on for generations.
When I worked for Congressman Lewis, people would say, we can't make progress, we haven't made progress. He would say, come walk in my shoes. He was born in rural Alabama in 1940 into a world where there were so-called literacy tests that were used to suppress black Americans from registering to vote. And he marched against those, and then he got elected to Congress, and he got to live his legacy. He got to see the progress that he made in his own lifetime. So I think we've come a long way, but I think his legacy is an example that we can go a lot farther in our own lifetimes.
It's not just any one thing, though. It's making sure that economic opportunity, education, and of course criminal justice and law enforcement reforms, they have to be a priority, and this is the moment to do them.
And we realized that came to a tipping point after George Floyd's murder this summer. We're realizing that there's a lot that has to be done.
Everyone's happiness and their liveliness should be included in what we're doing. And if people don't feel like they're included in that, then that needs to change.
As you look at these marches being led across the world, mostly by young people who understand what African Americans have been saying for some time. We want to be heard. We want to be allowed to have the same level and be treated with the same level of dignity and respect as any other human being. And that's what we're hearing across the country.
Right in the Declaration of Independence, it says all men are created equal, and we have yet to realize that goal.
Everybody said, why you need a hate crime bill? Well, 5 years ago when I first started out, there were 5 states that didn't have a hate crime law in their states. Now we're down to 3. Here we are, South Carolina, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Those are the last 3. I don't want the state to be in the last 3.
So, when we look at social justice today, where there is no justice, there is no peace. Individuals are rising up for a reason. Systemic racism is real.
But it's time to understand why, if you're of a given race, you stand a very big chance of being killed by a policeman. And it's time to talk about that. We need to talk about it and change it.
I grew up in the civil rights era. I grew up with understanding that institutional racism exists. We all have to be able to come to the table understanding that it is. Once we get to that, then we can think about how we move forward.
We have to have people who are involved who understand the issues and are willing to work to address some of the systemic problems like heirs property and folks that are in underserved communities that have traditionally been oppressed.
We can't fix the social justice network like we need to unless we fix our criminal justice network.
In America, most people understand the need and the importance of having highly trained, competent emergency personnel. What we don't expect are individuals who arrive with a predisposed bias.
We suffer from a value gap in this country. And as elected officials, we all need to admit that institutional racism exists.
Well, the reality is we're at an inflection point in our nation's history. what we've seen in this summer of 2020, the summer of unrest, is people realize that the issues that have plagued marginalized communities, distressed communities, issues like criminal justice, issues like healthcare, issues like housing, these are issues that have long existed, but we're finally getting to a point where we're seeing that the people who are in office, the institutions that perpetuate the systemic racism and this institutionalism, we're seeing that they're responding in a way that we haven't before.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. In my opinion, a blue jamboree is the best kind of jamboree. It's great to be back virtually in the great state of South Carolina. I loved all the time I spent in your state and in the beautiful city of Charleston. Okay, Democrats, we have 26 days to win the most important election of our lifetimes. Joe Biden is the candidate we need. I know you told the world that. And he will also be the president worthy of our country. Decency and dignity back in the White House. But we have more to do than just send him and my friend Kamala Harris to the White House. We have big things to do when they get in, especially in those first 100 days. But we need to do something else. We need to win big across the board. We need to re-elect the great Congressman Joe Cunningham. I love the virtual brewery event we just did together. And to keep the House in Democratic hands, of course, and elect the incredible Jamie Harrison to take back the United States Senate. I love how you are shocking the pundits in the polls, Jamie. My friends, all eyes are on your beautiful state. Before Friday, the stakes were already high. But now, with the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a giant at 5'1", a woman who made justice cool, the stakes couldn't be higher. The flags weren't even at half-mast when Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Graham said the Senate would vote on President Trump's nominee, when President Trump said he wants a seat filled without delay. The worst kind of politics, raw politics, when dealing with an institution that's supposed to be free from politics. And if you think his nominee will stand up for justice for all, think again. President Trump has never been a president for all Americans. Just look at what we're facing now. People out of work, small businesses struggling, especially in your state, students and teachers, school in difficult conditions, first graders learning the mute button. It didn't have to be this way. But without adequate testing and protective equipment, the virus spread quicker and farther than it should have. Millions of people contracted the virus, and over 200,000 families have lost loved ones, more than 3,000 in South Carolina. We know now that President Trump knew how deadly it would be, that he knew it was airborne. While my husband was in a hospital early on with the virus, on oxygen with pneumonia, I find out, and I take this personally, that he knew a lot more than he was telling us. He chose to, and I quote, play it down. He said he didn't want to create a panic. Well, I don't know if he knows the panic it feels when you're a family member. How about instead creating a plan, Mr. President? Americans need leaders who don't hide the truth and let people die, leaders who would rather solve problems than play politics, leaders like Jamie Harrison, Joe Cunningham, and of course the great Jim Clyburn, leaders like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They will fight for those who've lost their jobs because this administration is selling American workers out when we need to buy American. They will fight for the teachers and parents who are doing the work that they didn't sign up for, juggling, parenting, literally juggling kids on their knees while they're at the keyboard doing work, and educating, keeping roofs over their heads. It didn't have to be this way. Joe and Kamala will fight for seniors like my dad, 92 years old, got COVID. He was there. I visited him in his assisted living through a glass window, wondering if it would be the last time I'd see him. He made it through, but so many families aren't that lucky. Joe and Kamala will fight for all Americans. You expect a lot for the people of South Carolina, the people in your state, the leaders like Joe and Jamie and Jim. The ball is in your court. This year, you need a plan for everything. Grocery shopping. Yep. But also a plan for voting. You can vote in person early at some locations. You can request an absentee ballot and mail it or drop it off. Visit votebluesc.com. Let me say that again, votebluesc.com to make your plan. You all know people that don't always vote, that maybe are sick and tired of elections that have been lost. You tell them this is the time. You make sure they vote that day. No, not election day is great. A lot of people vote that day, and it's going to be safe. But how about getting them to do it today, tomorrow? Call everyone in your circle and then check up on them. Say, did you vote? Did you put that thing in the mail? Or did you go and drop it off at the box? Or did you vote early? Joe Cunningham flipped that first district seat in 2018. And ever since then, we've been building on his momentum. There will be more marches to come, more fights to fight, but we have seen victory over and over again. And that is because you have never stopped working for our democracy. 26 days to elect Jamie Harrison and just blow up all the pundits' predictions, to re-elect Joe Cunningham, to send Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House, and to build back better. Let's get it done, South Carolina. And I can't wait to be there to celebrate with you when this pandemic is behind us. I promise. I can't wait to be there again. Thank you.
The Blue Jamboree is made possible by Monarch Law.
Charleston's Democratic women are getting it done.
We're running to be the first woman sheriff in the state of South Carolina. Come on.
We're helping to elevate Democratic voices across Charleston County.
And we are listening to the Latinx community. Estamos con nuestro pueblo.
We're organizing Democratic clubs in rural areas.
We're flipping state house seats from longtime Republicans.
We're increasing our Democratic infrastructure in traditionally red areas.
And we're reaching Democrats everywhere we go.
We're adding more moms to the South Carolina Senate.
We're making James Island blue.
We're running despite those who doubt us and winning.
In 2018, we knocked on over 16,000 doors
and flipped a congressional seat
that hadn't been held by a Democrat in 37 years.
In 2019, we established a permanent office.
And in 2020, we come to play.
We know women get things done.
We tackle the most challenging tasks
and keep moving.
We're entrepreneurs.
We're party chairs and campaign strategists.
We are nurses and physicians.
We are coaches and volunteers. We are mothers.
And wives, sisters, granddaughters.
And business owners and county chairs.
We are church leaders.
Aunts and grandmothers.
Representatives.
We are lawyers, teachers, and daughters.
We are pastors.
We're engineers. We're women.
Y somos mujeres.
We serve our constituents.
We serve our community.
We serve our families.
We are activists making good trouble.
To all the Lowcountry women,
we need you to stand with us.
This is our year.
Let's go.
Together, we are changing the world.
Women are the past,
present,
and future of the Democratic Party.
And we rock.
And this November, come hell or high water,
we will rise up as strong women
and elect Democrats up and down the ballot.
When we vote,
when we get involved,
we win.
I'm Jim Clyburn. I proudly represent the 6th Congressional District of South Carolina. I also serve as a House Majority Whip, and in that capacity, it is my job to get the votes necessary to get bills passed. But what I'm more proud of than anything else is representing you in the United States Congress. And in that representation, I have taken on the responsibility of chairing the House Select Committee on COVID-19. And one of the things we know now, we did not really know before, is that COVID-19 has revealed some real fault lines in our system. It's in our healthcare system. We know now that our healthcare system needs to be repaired. There's a fault line that's open in our educational system. We need to repair that fault line as well. And then housing. COVID-19 has brought us to the point where we know that we have got to do some things to correct some real serious problems in our system. And nothing can come between us and getting that done, which means that between now and November 3rd, we've got to do everything we possibly can to turn out the vote that we need in order for us to be successful on November 3rd. November 3rd is election day, but we are making October election month. We in South Carolina can vote absentee for any reason or for no reason starting October 5th. And we want to do everything we possibly can to get people to the polls in person before November 3rd. I believe that we can win this election. Jimmy Harrison can get to the United States Senate. We can get control of the House of Representatives. Joe Cunningham will get reelected. Adair will get elected. Mo Brown and Melissa Watson, all of these people can get elected if we do our part between now and November 3rd. So let me thank you all for allowing me to be a part of Blue Jamboree. I'm so pleased to be a sponsor this year, as I have been in the past, and I look forward to us celebrating a tremendous victory the night of November 3rd.
Jamie Harrison and I have been working side by side in the Democratic Party for over 25 years. I'm so glad he's running for Senate. He's going to be an amazing U.S. Senator. And so now I'd like to introduce my friend and yours, Jamie Harrison.
Hi folks, it's Jamie Harrison. When I started this campaign, people told me South Carolina was not going to elect a Democrat. Supposedly, our state was not going to elect a black man who grew up poor in rural Orangeburg. But thanks to you, we are tied with Lindsey Graham, 48-48, in a feat that no one thought was possible. No one except you. But there's still a few weeks left, folks, and healthcare, broadband, and the future of our state and country are on the ballot. So we need you. We need you to text friends. We need you to make phone calls. We need you to reach every person possible in South Carolina and leave no stone unturned. Let's get to work. Thank you all. Thank you all for all the hard work.
Hello, this is State Senator Marlon Kempson. In the Baptist Church, we have something that inspirational that we do called call and response to get us in the mood for service. I'm going to call it, and I want you to respond. Fired up! Ready to go! Fired up! Ready to go! There's something exciting going on in Charleston County this year. We have an opportunity to change the leadership of the Charleston delegation. You see, with the election of Spencer Wetmore, the split for the joint delegation, House and Senate, on voting is now 50-50. By holding all of our Democratic seats and flipping just one Republican seat, we will have the majority of votes, something we haven't had for almost 2 decades. If we flip one Senate seat, then we control the Senate delegation and I am your chairman. I can tell you this, enough solely with carrying out the agenda of corporate fat cats in the Chamber of Commerce. We got to have a people's first agenda to include providing affordable housing, raising the minimum wage, and fighting for civil justice, diversifying our airports and magistrate seats. The stakes couldn't be higher, and we need you to put us over the top. I endorsed Joe Biden early in this year's presidential election because I truly believe he has the most experience to lead this country out of the mess that Don Trump and the Republicans created for us. They squandered all of the good things that were handed off to them by Obama-Biden team, including the economy, our national security, and the gains in health care we made under the Affordable Care Act. Regardless of whom you supported in the primary, I am counting on you to enthusiastically support the Biden-Harris ticket. This is a ticket that will make history, with Senator Kamala Harris becoming the first female vice president and becoming the highest-ranking African-American female elected ever. That's real stuff. As I mentioned earlier, We have an opportunity here in South Carolina that we've not had in a generation. We have a very real chance of flipping our state Senate from red to blue. And the road to that blue South Carolina Senate runs right here through Charleston. Folks, we have 7 amazing candidates running in every single district in this county. And make no mistake, we're going to flip some of those seats on November 3rd. The only question is how many we're going to flip, and the answer is up to you. Let's meet our candidates for state Senate, and everybody get ready to get fired up. Ready to go. Ready to go.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine Whitaker, your Democratic candidate for South Carolina Senate District 37. Between my junior and senior year of college at Clemson University, I was a paid intern for Mayor Joe Riley in the city of Charleston. During that summer, I learned so much about the importance of staying in close touch with the constituents the office serves and about the good that government can do. It was that summer that I was tasked with coordinating a brand new program the city was rolling out called the First Day of School Celebration. So about 3 weeks before the first day and before I was going back to Clemson, we had a meeting in the mayor's office. There were 5 of us in the meeting with the mayor and 4 chairs in front of his desk, a few more along the back of the room against the wall. I entered the room first and went straight to the back wall and sat in one of those chairs, and the other 4 people took the chairs directly across from the mayor's desk. And the mayor comes in the room and he looks at me and where I was sitting, and immediately he says, "Catherine, pull your chair up here with the rest of us. You have been the point person on this project and you're a big part of this meeting." And he literally made me scoot my chair up and everyone else moved over. And I took my place, a seat at the table. I had a seat and a voice. In that moment, Mayor Riley showed me that we have to take our seats and use our voices. Today, it's more clear than ever that we need accessible and effective leaders, and that's the kind of elected official I want to be. I'm running to bring service back to politics, and I want to help people. On November 3rd, we're going to use our voices to bring the change we need in this state, and we're going to flip this seat. I would love your help. Visit CatherineForSenate.com to learn more. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Lowe, the Democratic challenger for South Carolina State Senate, District 38. I am running for office to help government refocus its vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all citizens. Life and liberty must be preserved for even the least of us. Pursuit of happiness requires government to enable every citizen to be their personal best. Programs to support small to large businesses must demand wages and working conditions that do not curtail life and liberty. I will never prioritize special interests above South Carolinians. That is how I will help Joe Biden build back better. Please support me, John Lowe, for State Senate.
Hey y'all, I'm Sam Scarden, running for Senate District 41. My first boss, Congressman John Lewis, used to say we need leaders who are headlights, not taillights. Ever since I grew up here, South Carolina has had too many taillights. We're always playing catch up on infrastructure and flooding. We never got ahead of this pandemic, and our schools are last on far too many lists. We need to get ahead of issues. As Mr. Lewis would tell me, we need to be headlights. That means leaders who will acknowledge and fight back against climate change. That means believing we can have great public schools, beat this pandemic, and rebuild an economy that works for all of us. That's the headlight leadership we need in South Carolina, and that's why I'm running for the state Senate.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard Rissick, your nominee for South Carolina Senate 43. Are you ready? Ready to believe in better? I know you are. I know you're tired of South Carolina being in the bottom of the things we should be in the top of. I know you're tired of the same old career politicians in Columbia. And I know you're tired of nothing changing because nothing changes. But it's time. You can feel it. This election, it is time to move South Carolina forward. I'm not a politician. I'm not taking PAC money, and I've pledged a 2-term term limit because it's your interest I'm serving, not the special interest. My opponent is a 22-year career politician. His outdated views have failed you for decades. It's time to fix public education, increase access to health care, address flooding and sea level rise, and keep you and your property safe. It's time for new citizen leaders. I'm Richard Rissick, and I'm asking you please for your vote. Let's believe in better. Thank you and God bless.
My name is Debbie Chapman Bryant. I'm a nurse, a mom, an educator, and the wife of a 23-year United States Army veteran. I'm a first-time candidate for South Carolina State Senate in District 44 for Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester County. Growing up in Moncks Corner during the Civil Rights era, not everyone would have expected me to be a nurse, a scholar, and an educator, building coalitions on major issues like public health and disease prevention. Now, I want to take that experience to your state house to build alliances and find solutions for our roads and our economy. On November 3rd, vote Dr. Debbie Chapman Bryant, nurse for State Senate.
We've all heard the phrase, the stakes are too high. Well, the stakes in this election are way too high for us to wait for someone else to come along and fix the situation. The only way that evil can prevail is when good people like you fail to act. Let's fix this together. When I ran for the Senate in 2015, I pledged to not just sit on the sidelines, but to be a voice of change. My first bills that I filed were to require psychiatric testing for police officers, to mandate a reporting system for bad officers, and to provide an avenue for persons to regain their civil liberty. These bills were ignored by the Republicans. When I pledged to bring jobs to the Lowcountry, I brought over 1,500 new jobs to my district and a $315 million investment. We can be proud that we are becoming a regional economic force. When it comes to women's rights, I fought. On education, South Carolina's greatest investment is our children. I fought for higher wages and smaller class sizes. Friends, we're facing a pandemic on 3 fronts: healthcare, social injustice, and economic depression. It takes strong, decisive leaderships during these times to prevail. I spoke up early to say, listen to the medical expert. I spoke up early to say this state needs police reform now. I spoke up early to say our workers are in need of jobs. The stakes are far too high. On Tuesday, November 3rd, it's your time to step up and speak up, because together we can. Let's do this.
How incredible is it that 2 of our Senate candidates here in the Lowcountry are also on the front lines leading the fight against COVID-19? Every day, with every mask we see or don't see, we are reminded of how our choices affect the health of others and ourselves. The choices we make on November 3rd are going to have a huge impact on the health of our state and of our nation. Are we going to elect leaders who are committed to expanding access to quality, affordable health care? Or are we going to elect politicians who are committed to ending Obamacare and the protections that working families like yours and mine depend on?
I'm a nurse. I believe in science. We have 2,800 South Carolinians dead because of COVID. We have over 191,000 individuals in the United States dead because of COVID. It is time that we stop talking about this and politicizing it, but come together as leaders to decide what we do about it.
So here we are months later, people dying in the hundreds of thousands, and we've paid the ultimate cost.
Right here in South Carolina, more than 75% of our hospital beds are occupied in 15 counties. It's clear that our state isn't ready as we continue to battle the coronavirus.
Well, look, I think that the Democrats are the party that's understanding the severity of this pandemic, that's understanding the need to listen to experts, to listen to science.
Well, I think healthcare should be a right, not a privilege, that we should expand Medicaid, because we had thousands of poor people who just can't afford healthcare.
We are just one of 12 states still denying this coverage, and Lindsey Graham is one of the reasons why. If we expand Medicaid, we can provide health insurance to 214,000 South Carolinians.
If we don't get serious about healthcare during a pandemic, I don't know when we will.
As a state, what we need to do is step up and expand Medicaid so these folks have coverage and access to high quality medical care to save their lives and to really save them from descending into bankruptcy.
We must expand the Affordable Care Act so that we leave no citizen behind.
If you don't have that card, that insurance card, that health insurance card, when you go into the doctor's office, you're treated almost like a second-class citizen.
One of the areas where we see people pushed into desperate circumstances is when they have healthcare emergencies that they can't pay for. It's one of those strange root causes of crime that most people just don't think about.
The great tragedy during this pandemic is that people are losing their health insurance at precisely the time that they need it the most.
In fact, more than 1 in 5 South Carolina adults living in rural areas of this state have no health insurance. That's a staggering statistic.
What I'm hearing from constituents that there's been a big pullback in healthcare services in rural areas. We've got to turn the tide and make sure that we're expanding services, not pulling services back.
Because it takes at least an hour, like in my district, for someone to get to the nearest hospital from Eddystone.
4 of our rural hospitals have closed in the past few years. 8 counties don't even have a general hospital to speak of.
Choices for women are constantly under attack. Their reproductive freedoms are constantly under attack in South Carolina. I want a state senate. I want a state government that doesn't do that.
In South Carolina, maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates are high. It's unacceptable.
And so when looking at our opportunities in this election, it's either individuals who are trying to take away your health care or individuals who are trying to protect your health care.
Hello, Charleston Democrats. It's Pete Buttigieg here, sending warm greetings from South Bend all the way to South Carolina. I am thrilled to be joining you today, especially alongside someone I so admire as a leader in our party and our country, Congressman Jim Clyburn. And I'm delighted to be supporting my good friends, Congressman Joe Cunningham and your next U.S. Senator, Jamie Harrison. Look, we know this year has been unprecedented, challenging, and painful in so many ways. But remember, the story of 2020 is not yet fully written. The way I see it, we get to write the last and most important chapter in the story of 2020 together. The stakes of this election couldn't be higher. We know what we are up against. But over these next weeks, especially talking with family and friends who might still be making up their minds, or even wavering on whether to vote at all, let's remind them of what we have a chance right now to be for. We have a chance right now to return competency, decency, empathy to the Oval Office. We have a chance right now to raise wages for hardworking Americans, to make sure everyone gets health care, and to lower the cost of prescription drugs. We have a chance, maybe our last good chance, to stop the worst effects of climate change before it's too late. We've got a chance to pass common sense gun law, to keep kids safe at school. We got a chance to finally fully tackle systemic racism so our nation lives up to the truth that Black lives matter. And we've got a chance to send a message about what we expect from nominees to the judiciary and to the Supreme Court, because it now falls on us to protect the legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I believe precisely because of what we've been through, because of the chaos and the cruelty that have marked these recent years, 2020 could be remembered as a turning point, as the moment we decided to move towards something different and better. That's up to us. So I want to thank you for everything that you're doing and all that you will continue to do over these next vital, historic weeks ahead. If we can do this work, we will, as Vice President Biden so often says, restore the soul of this nation. And we will have an opportunity to come together and launch the era to come. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Stay safe, stay well, and stay involved.
You know that you are the fuel that continues to energize the Democratic Party. From the phone calls you make, the friends you remind to vote, the donations you send to our slated candidates, the letters to the editor you write to make our voice heard. Think about everything you've done and what you'll continue to do before November 3rd. As we listen to Lindsay Holler, a big supporter of the Blue Jay, and as you listen, if you would consider a donation to the Charleston County Democratic Party, we can guarantee you it will go to our candidates to help them win on November 3rd. Here is Lindsay Holler.
Where we stand, I don't know. The trouble we've seen, the things we've done. I hold my breath till we get home. Honey, I'm sure about nothing. The night grows long behind closed doors. Brace my heart for the killing floor. I hold my breath till we get home. Honey, I'm sure about nothing. Don't count us out. We're on the same side. Your northern aggression and my southern pride. I hold my breath till we get home. Honey, I'm sure about nothing. I hold my breath till we get home. Honey, I'm sure about nothing.
Hello, this is Trav Robertson, Chairman of the South Carolina Democratic Party. Madam Chair, and to all of the Democrats in Charleston, we appreciate so much the work that you are doing. As Congressman Clyburn said that this is an important election, and President Barack Obama said several weeks ago that this is the most consequential election of our lives. The fact is that the work that you're doing in Charleston will set the course to winning not only a sheriff's race, a solicitor's race, but adding members to the House of Representatives, electing Joe Cunningham again to the United States Congress, and helping South Carolina Democrats take back the state Senate. The truth is that ground zero, the fight for South Carolina and the future of our country is in Charleston, and we need every single person to help us get people out to vote. Congressman Clyburn has said that the election day is November the 3rd, but we should make October election month. Let us redouble our efforts to get our friends, our families, our neighbors, and Democrats to vote absentee in person or vote absentee by mail, so that on November the 3rd, we've already gotten our voters to vote. So Once again, on behalf of the state of South Carolina, thank you, Charleston. Colleen, thank you for leading the way in moving our state forward and adding Democrats to the State House, re-electing Joe Cunningham, and most importantly, electing Jamie Harrison to the United States Senate so that we can make sure that the freedoms women celebrate today are never taken away by a Supreme Court justice who doesn't appreciate those freedoms. On behalf of the Democratic Party, thank you. Let's join together and make October voting month.
As Democrats, we have an amazing opportunity this year to win races up and down the ballot here in Charleston County. We can win control of our local legislative delegation. In doing so, we would also gain seats in both the state House and the state Senate and give Democrats a stronger voice in Columbia. Charleston can also provide Joe Cunningham, Jamie Harrison, and Joe Biden huge vote margins to help offset some other areas of the state. There has never been a more important election in our history. There is so much at stake, from healthcare to civil rights, equal justice, and more, even the very future of our democracy. Please keep working until the last vote is counted. Your work can and will make a difference. On a personal note, my wife Ann and I want to say thank you for all your years of support, for all your hard work, for all it means to us, to our community, our state, and our country. Again, thank you. Now, please give your attention to these great representatives, senators, and candidates for the South Carolina General Assembly.
Hey y'all, this is South Carolina State Representative J.A. Moore, and this is my daughter, Mariah Ray Lovemore. And during these uncertain times, it's just very, very critical that as Democrats, as South Carolinians, as Charlestonians, we do everything we can to come together. During this unprecedented time with the pandemic, where hundreds of thousands of people across this country are losing their lives, here in South Carolina, we have thousands of confirmed cases, and so many people have died. We need leadership in Columbia and across this state that listen to the scientists, listen to medical professionals. And we're not having that with leadership in Columbia. That's why it's so important that we elect Democrats up and down the ticket this year. Not only that, we need to make sure that our schools are being opened safely and operated safely. And we have to do something for the restaurant, hospitality, tourism industry. It's an industry that I've been in for over 17 years now. We need to do direct relief for restaurant workers, for restaurant owners and operators. And we're gonna fight like hell for them. We also need to do something for childcare. Here in South Carolina, we have thousands of folks that wanna go back to work, but because of their children not having childcare, it's not possible. So y'all, in closing, we need to make sure on November the 3rd that we get out to vote. Matter of fact, I'm asking all of you all to vote before November 3rd. We need to make sure that we get this done. This is Representative J.A. Moore and Mariah. Thanking y'all so much.
Hey, Low Country Democrats. 2020 brought us COVID-19, economic collapse, extreme fires and hurricanes, and more violence against the Black community. Our country needs Joe Biden in the White House, Jamie Harrison in the Senate, and Joe Cunningham in Congress. And we need Democrats representing us in the state government too. As your state representative, I'm fighting to protect our teachers, our students, and our public schools. I will protect every woman's right to make her own decisions about her body. I won't allow our state to pass laws that discriminate against our LGBTQ community. I believe Black Lives Matter. My name is Jen Gibson, and I'm the Democratic nominee for South Carolina House District 99. I will listen to you. I will work hard to solve your problems. I will be your representative. I can't do it without you, though. Visit jenforsc.com to learn more, volunteer, and donate. When you go to bed on November 3rd, know that you left nothing on the table. Let's win this.
Hi, my name is Dion Tedder, and I'm running to be the next state representative in District 109, which covers Charleston and Dorchester counties. Our current representative, David Mack, is retiring after many years of service, and I'm ready to continue his tireless work for our community. I'm a product of public schools and a first-generation college student. I graduated from South Carolina State University and the University of South Carolina School of Law. I'm a local attorney here in the Low Country, and I fight every day for people in my community. It's obvious a lot of our laws target certain communities, and I'm ready to take the fight from the courtroom to the State House. As an attorney, I understand the law and I have the experience to advocate for the type of legislation we need. I'll focus on improving our public schools, tackle the eviction crisis and help make housing affordable for all, fight for criminal justice reform, and ensure that every South Carolinian has access to quality health care. So let's get to the polls on November 3rd and make District 109 and South Carolina better with Tedder.
In these unprecedented times, we are discovering the integrous thread of which we are made. One of the best assets the state can cultivate is growing the number of people who understand the importance of treating each other with respect and dignity under all conditions. What matters to South Carolinians is living wages, abundant job opportunities, safe and uplifting education for our children, and thoughtful disaster preparedness. Most importantly, we desire to have people representing us at all levels of government who are forward-thinking and consciously creating. Buoyed by my endless optimism, I am committed to making South Carolina a greener, more economically robust, and socially conscious place to inhabit. Please join me and my fellow Democrats in bringing forward a wholesome approach to low country living.
As a Charleston native, Charleston schools have a special connection with me. I credit the many teachers I had during the years for providing me with the tools necessary to become a public servant and businessman in this community. The South Carolina Education Association consistently gives me an A+ due to my determined work on behalf of teachers and students. Last year, when teachers stormed the State House to demand what was rightfully theirs, I did not hide in the chambers. I was on the marching line with them. Once in the chamber, we fought for unprecedented gains. I ask that you stand with me, Wendell Gilliard, on November 3rd and send me back to Columbia to continue fighting for economic justice and opportunity in District 111.
Hi, I'm Daniel Brownstein, and I'm running to be your next state representative for District 112 here in Mount Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, and Isle of Palms. I'm a working dad with 2 elementary school kids who cares deeply about our community and everything that makes the Lowcountry so special. I'm in this race to ensure we're meeting the challenges posed by COVID so our schools can operate safely, that our economy and workers are thriving, and that we're doing all that we can to preserve our coastal way of life. This used to be a Republican seat. Not anymore. Joe Cunningham won this district 2 years ago, and we've only grown stronger since. Our polling tells us that we're in a great position to flip this open seat. I'm confident that we will win in November, but I can't do it alone. Please join me at danielbrownstein.com to contribute your time and your resources so we can make this win a reality. And let's build a brighter future together.
Friends, we are facing the gravest and greatest political challenge in most of our lifetimes. The world over, from Putin to Brexit to Trump, democracy itself is on the rocks, and nowhere is exempt. The battle for free peoples and kind societies is ever more intense and ever closer to home. Now, I'm not giving up on this fight, and neither should you. I am not facing an opponent this fall, but I am doing everything in my power to ensure the success of those who defend rights and give power to the powerless and who oppose the forces of autocracy and bigotry. We're all in this together, and we all have to chip in to defeat Donald Trump and the political currents he represents. We have to make sure that when Joe Biden wins, that the country and the world he leaves behind in 2025 is better than the one that he inherited. If you help me do this, then you will have done your small part in the grand comeback and struggle for a better world. You know me, you know my reputation, and you know that I will keep my word and fight with my full heart and soul as we march into a brighter future, hand in hand, heart in heart, together.
If we hadn't had the chance to meet yet, I would like to introduce myself. I am Ed Sutton, and I'm running for SC House District 114. I'm a graduate of the Citadel and flew for the Air Force in Afghanistan on 3 combat tours. Now, I own a small business and fly for the Air Force Reserves. My wife, Amy, and I, we live in West Ashley and are proud parents to our 10-month-old son, Trip. Service has always been a big part of my life, and I decided to run for State House because I believe to solve the problems we face, from flooding to traffic to education to our environment and now COVID, we need leadership who is interested in addressing these concerns and truly representing the people of 114. Unlike my opponent, I believe that there's dignity in all work, and QAnon is a bunch of nonsense. On day one, I roll up my sleeves and get to work for you. Bottom line, we need more servant leaders in government. As state representative for House District 114, I will do what I've done my entire life. I will put you first and help South Carolina families.
Hi, I'm Spencer Wetmore. I am proud to be the South Carolina House Rep for James Island, Folly Beach, Kiowa, and Seabrook. I grew up in Charleston, and my husband and I are raising our 2 daughters on Folly Beach. I never thought I'd run for office, but I ran so I could fight for their future. I won the special election in August by 20 points, flipping this seat for the first time in a decade. But our work is far from over. I'm up for election again in November, and it's a different ballgame with thousands of new voters. Winning the full term means fighting for our environment, our public schools, health care, and justice for all. So I need your help. Talk to your friends, sign up to volunteer, chip in if you can. We're working on expanding absentee voting, but start now to make your voting plan. Please visit spencerwetmore.com to read more about my campaign, but more importantly, reach out to me about what's important to you.
Hello, I am Dr. Chardell Murray, President and CEO of Murray's Mortuary. I am planning to be your next state representative for District 116. District 116 covers Walter Bar, Cottageville, and the Sea Island. It was always my ardent desire to come back home and serve my community. State Representative Robert L. Brown is retiring, and he has done a wonderful job. Also, he endorsed me, which means a lot, because his thoughts, his ideas, and momentum I can expand at a higher level with my election. I am homegrown, so I know the needs and want and the desire of the people in the town. I am an astute councilwoman and a business owner. I have learned the concerns of the citizen is what it takes to make a community thrive. And I can be that leader with your support. On November 3rd, I am humbly seeking your support to become your next state representative. Dr. Chardell Murray, someone who's compassionate, sincere, and have your best interests at heart. Thank you.
I am Representative Crystal Matthews of the South Carolina State House, District 117. In the last 2 years, I am proud to have co-authored and authored legislation supporting mental health in schools, affordable housing, and ending the pink tax on women's feminine products. In the next 2 years, I hope to support my district and support our growth through local business, employment, and sustainable housing. Vote for me, Crystal Matthews, District 117, South Carolina, November 3rd. Hope to see you at the polls.
As we've already heard, education is clearly one of the most important issues we face this year. Let's dive a little deeper now.
I think what's important for us to realize about education here in South Carolina is for over a generation, the Republican Party has been in control over almost every level of government. And they failed us. We're ranked at the bottom of the entire country as far as education. We need to elect Democrats in order to fix the education system here in South Carolina.
The Republicans have not invested in public education. The Democrats will.
When we go to the polls on November 3rd, we have a choice to make. We can vote for representatives that want to support our teachers and our public schools, or we can vote for representatives that want to take our hard-earned tax dollars and push them into private schools.
If you're voting Republican and you're a teacher for local elections, you know, that you're voting against your own best interest.
We build our prison budgets and our college scholarship budgets 10 years out based on third grade test scores. So when kids don't show up ready to learn young, they fall behind, and we're betting on them as a state to never catch up. So let's make sure they show up ahead and have universal pre-K.
And we know in a state that's plagued by educational disparities that we can make up the most ground if we focus on pre-K. So I want to see us do more for kids that are ages 0 to 5.
And so when we look at where we are today, especially in Charleston County, where individuals are still in de facto segregation, we must make certain that all schools are funded properly.
The same refrain that we hear often, but it's the truth, which is the education quality should not be restricted to your zip code.
I feel that we need to put the trades back in the school.
We need an umbrella bill that would become law that would teach all the schools in the state of South Carolina advanced manufacturing.
Let's talk about virtual education and the classroom. My 5 children are all going virtual right now, and I am slowly losing my mind because, man, it is a lot to be with them every day, all day, and clicking through all these different screens and making sure everybody's turning in stuff. And I also see the teachers, how they're struggling. We just have to do better for our children.
Well, the problem now is as we're seeing telehealth and virtual education and all of these things require the internet. So we have to have internet access in every home. And right now there are about 190,000 homes across the state that don't have reliable internet access. So rural broadband is an issue that's become even more exacerbated with this pandemic and something that has to be addressed now.
I think that to help our schools serve every kid during this pandemic, we really need to do our part to contain this virus, and that means wearing a mask and practicing social distancing so that we can really get our kids back in school.
We need to pay our teachers better because you know what? You pay and retain talent, change happens.
I was a product of a public school. My family is matriculated through public schools. I understand the importance and value of an education that you invest in.
One of my top priorities is making sure that our public schools are funded. Both of my daughters are proud Charleston County School District students, and making sure that their teachers, their schools, their classrooms are funded is incredibly important to me.
Teachers are complaining in our schools that they don't have enough resources to supply to their students, okay? You know, that's embarrassing.
As the county auditor, we've worked to find innovative ways to make sure the school district receives all the money that they're entitled to through taxes and ensure that the folks who are supposed to be paying their taxes do pay their taxes.
We need to put our money where our mouth is. We have been saying for years that we need to pay teachers, we need to have smaller classroom sizes, we need K-3. We've finally gotten K-3, but we need to speak up and put money behind the causes.
Schools cannot operate without proper funding, and I want to make sure that I'm there advocating for the proper revenue stream for our education system.
It is time for us to flip the paradigm. There is absolutely no reason South Carolina's national ranking shouldn't be in the top 10 in this nation.
There's the saying that all politics is local, and I learned that firsthand on county council when I served for 12 years. It's where I learned my political chops and where I learned the power that elected officials can wield for good or not. I'm proud to introduce a few good friends who are committed to fighting the good fight. Let's hear from more of our county candidates and elected officials.
I'm Peter Tecklenburg, and it's been my honor to serve the people of Charleston County as your auditor for the past 8 years. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. While I'm running unopposed, I'm proud to share the ballot with our next President, Joe Biden, our next Senator, Jamie Harrison, and Congressman Clyburn and Cunningham. But I'm equally as proud to be part of a ticket that's going to change the South Carolina State House forever. The stakes have never been greater. We must change the direction of this state and of this country, but we will only win if we vote, and when we vote this November, we will elect the best slate of Democrats in recent memory. We know we have the candidates, we know we have the votes, we just need to get them out. Call your family, talk to the people at your church, drag your friends to the polls. Just finding a few people a week can guarantee us a better future. Now let's get out there and vote, and let's get out there and win.
So we meet again, virtually. It's not exactly what we wanted as election season ramped up, but I tell you what, I am so impressed by the way in which the Charleston County Democratic Party has risen to the challenges of the times. And that's what it's really all about, right? Recognizing the need for change and quickly adapting to not just make it work, but rather make it work for all of us. So this is more of a love letter to a team of people, to all of the volunteers who have worked diligently behind the scenes to keep the candidates on track to win and the voters informed. I am so grateful for your energy and for your vision for our community. As your county treasurer, I will continue to reach for the bar that you have set, advocating for our taxpayers, for change, and for equality. I'm Mary Tinkler. I'll see you at the ballot box.
Hi, I'm Rob Werman.
I'm running for Charleston County Council District 3 because it's time to stand up and fight for the future of our community. We're living in challenging times, and as we continue to grapple with a global pandemic, we must also work to reform our criminal justice system, to preserve the future of the Lowcountry in a changing climate, and to invest in communities that have been ignored for far too long. This November, we can choose to take on these problems with bold energy and fresh ideas. We can expand access to jobs and increase everyone's quality of life by improving our roads and our public transit. We can prioritize sustainable development that protects our natural resources. And we can create and preserve affordable housing to give more folks in our region the ability to build a life for themselves and their families. I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd because together we can build a future where everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
Hi, I'm Kylon Middleton, and I'm running to bring strong moral leadership to Charleston County Council, representing District 6. I'm a native Charlestonian. I've served in positions of leadership in Charleston most of my adult life. For more than 27 years, I've served as a high school English teacher, school administrator, and as a pastor in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I am the proud pastor of historic Mount Zion AME Church in the heart of the city of Charleston. To further extend my service to the community, for 3 years I served as the project leader for the Charleston Illumination Project, that organization whose mission is to build trust and legitimacy between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Now, I'm running for county council to help our communities, improve traffic and public transit options, prioritize flooding relief projects, build more affordable housing, and manage the effects of COVID-19. I humbly ask for your vote and your support as we seek to bring strong moral leadership to Charleston County Council.
The Blue Jamboree is made possible by Senator Marlon Kimpson.
Joe Cunningham did the unthinkable. He turned a red district blue in 2018 when I was chair of the Democratic Party, and he's been making us proud ever since. And don't you just love it? He's been a fighter for our coast, and when he takes the hard votes, he does the right thing, like impeach a Republican president in a red district. He's shown his profile and courage over and over again. It is my honor to introduce our U.S. Congressman from the 1st District, Joe Cunningham. Let's send Joe back to Washington on November 3rd.
First off, I want to say how grateful I am to represent you in the 1st Congressional District at this very, very pivotal time in our nation's history. This year, our country has faced adversity like we never imagined. For a long time, Charleston was at the epicenter of this virus. It hit our businesses hard and our people even harder. And while things may have gotten a little bit better, we are not out of the woods yet. But I know that we'll get through this. In the Lowcountry, we've been tested before. Hurricanes, earthquakes, shootings, and now pandemics. And we've always come out stronger on the other side, and this is no different. But this pandemic has exposed the best and the worst of our country, and ultimately it's posed a question to every single American that in the face of such a crisis, what do we expect from our elected leaders? I would say we expect two things. We expect results, and we expect the truth. You see, too many politicians give you neither one, but I promise to be different. I ran for Congress because I saw too many people in Washington that are more concerned with keeping their jobs than doing their jobs. I saw no backbone, and I wanted to change that. I said that I wouldn't take any PAC money. I wanted to be accountable to the people I represented, no one else. And that's exactly what I've done. So every month, we end up sending back tens of thousands of dollars. And I pledged that I wouldn't just say that I was for term limits, like most politicians. I was actually going to self-impose term limits on myself. And I have. 3 terms and I'm out. I promised that I would fight to protect our beautiful coastline and ban offshore drilling. And within weeks of taking office, I introduced the most significant anti-offshore drilling legislation ever. But I didn't just introduce it. I got it passed through the House with bipartisan support. I also introduced the Great American Outdoors Act, which is the most significant conservation legislation in half a century. But I didn't just introduce it. I got it signed into law by the president, and that's the second time we've had the president sign one of our bills. The other one was a bill to allow veterans to attend appeals hearings remotely rather than having to drive to Columbia or Savannah. So when it comes to making sure South Carolinians have access to quality, affordable health care, that our veterans have the benefits and support that they've earned, and that we pass common sense legislation to get rid of the Charleston loophole and pass universal background checks, I've gotten results. And the contrast between my opponent and me cannot be more clear. My opponent says that Dr. Fauci is actually the one to blame for COVID being so bad in our country, and called him a liar. She even attacked me for not having in-person campaign events during the middle of a pandemic. She says she wants to privatize Social Security and raise the retirement age. And she favors a plan that would bankrupt the Social Security Trust Fund by 2023. And even though Charleston floods more and more every single year due to sea level rise, my opponent recently declared that the science behind climate change is not clear-cut. My opponent and too many people in both parties want to continue fanning the flames of partisan tribalism in D.C. If you ask me, we've got enough of that. I ran for Congress and won because I wanted to extinguish those flames and not fan them. But as a country, we're still as divided as we've ever been. And this upcoming election is not a choice between Democrats and Republicans. It's an election about values. It's about what you want representing you and your family. And I'm asking for you to stand with us in this election and this fight to change politics for the better. For my 2-year-old son, Boone, for your child and your grandchildren, they deserve it. And their future depends on it.
As we speak, we are literally running out of letters to name our tropical storms and hurricanes. It's a record-breaking year in the Atlantic. And as our party works to fight climate change, the Republicans in Washington and Columbia are in a state of denial and war with science. Here in the Low Country, in one of the most beautiful places on earth, with miles of wetlands and creeks and coastlines, we have too much at stake to play political games.
When we go through our neighborhoods, to include Shadow Moss, or where I live in Grand Oaks, I am able to see it up close and personal every day. And so climate change is not a hoax, it is real. And when we look at the environment, we need individuals who are in office that understand and realize that we have to fix that.
Literally every decision that the State House makes should say, how does this impact the environment? And if it does, how are we going to mitigate that and have a plan for taking care of that if it becomes an issue?
Look, you don't have to be a scientist to observe and recognize science.
District 115 is a district of islands, so if we're not serious about flooding, the causes of flooding and our increased storms, we're really not going to be able to worry about any of the other issues.
Our quality of life is so important here in Charleston. If we don't protect our water and our air quality, and we don't prioritize the environment over business interests, we won't have anything left to leave to our children.
We begin over in James Island now, where 7,200 gallons of sewage spilled into the James Island Creek this week.
The impact that so much of the discharge can have on communities, especially vulnerable communities like the ones that I represent of color, where you've got people who located next to sites that could be toxically harming to them.
Charleston Harbor is routinely the site of spills and pollution, and the only thing our state has ever done is give people a slap on the wrist. When you get serious about protecting our coast,
our oceans, our beaches, our waterways are our way of life. Everyone recognizes that an oil spill off the coast would jeopardize all of that. So we've got to do everything we can in order to protect our waterways, our way of life, our economy here in the Low Country.
One of the biggest threats that is occurring right now are these plastic pellets. I'm sure many of you have read about them in the newspaper. They're showing up on our beaches, they're in our waterways, they're polluting our food.
So it's really important for our coastal district to have a strong voice in Columbia so that we can directly confront these challenges.
Well, I have two little children, Marley, who's 7, and Marlon, who's 3. And I want them to be able to live in a world in and live in a state where they can drink clean water.
Here in South Carolina, and specifically here in Charleston, that we have a deficit with clean drinking water and air pollution. And to be honest with you, it's the Democratic Party that not only champions those issues, but are fighting like hell in Columbia for those issues.
There are a lot of solutions that we can do, everything from green infrastructure to just changing our development patterns.
When it comes to the environment, one of the things we have to get right is this idea of smart growth, and that is balancing development with the conservation of our natural resources.
It's going to be important for us to make sure that we're passing meaningful legislation, that we're doing everything that we can to protect our environment.
When it comes to the environment, it begins with science. And what I begin with is South Carolina should have a net carbon neutral goal for 2050. You can't get anywhere without having a goal, and the floodwaters are rising. They won't be negotiated with.
Folks, early voting locations here are open. The ballots are in the mail. Votes are being cast at this very moment. So tell your friends, tell your family. There is no reason to wait for November 3rd. The time to vote is here, and the time to vote is now. It's time to get fired up and ready to go to the polls.
Y'all in? All in. Do you have a voting plan? If not, now is the time to make a plan for you and your family to vote. Because of the laws just passed in September, all South Carolina voters can vote early. You have 3 options for voting this year. Option 1 is to vote by mail. If you've already applied for a ballot, great. Your ballot may have already arrived or will in the next few days. If not, you can still apply online today at votebluesc.com. Your ballot will come in the mail along with an envelope for returning it. You can easily return your ballot in person at any of the early voting locations. Here in Charleston County, we even have drive-thrus at the early voting locations, so you can hand off your ballot without leaving your car. Of course, you can also mail it back and the postage is already prepaid. Just make sure you sign it and get a witness signature on your envelope. The witness can be any person of any age. You can even use the yellow form that comes with your mailed ballot to authorize someone else to return your ballot for you. VoteBlueSC.com lets you track your ballot at any stage of the process so you can rest assured that your vote has been safely delivered. Your second option is to vote early in person. Here in Charleston County, we have 4 convenient locations. As you can see, the North Charleston Coliseum is already open for early voting. On October 19th or after, you can also go to the main library downtown on Calhoun Street, Seacoast Church in Mount Pleasant, or Seacoast Church in West Ashley. For hours and more information, visit votebluesc.com. Option 3, of course, is to vote on Election Day, November 3rd, at your usual polling location. Make your plan to vote using one of these 3 easy options today. For more information, visit us at votebluesc.com or call the South Carolina Democratic Party Voter Protection Hotline at 855-785-0222.
Many of you may recall that when I stood up to endorse Joe Biden, I'd said something that I really meant, and that is this. I know Joe, we know Joe, but most importantly, Joe knows us. And that's not just a saying. He has been in South Carolina more often than any other state outside of his home state of Delaware. Joe Biden is going to bring this country back better. That is what this campaign is all about, building back better.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce my friend and the next President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Hello, Democrats. Thank you all for your service to the Democratic Party and to our country, especially in these tough times. I wish we were meeting under different circumstances this year, but instead we're separated by a deadly virus. Far, far too many Americans have died. We have more COVID infections than any other country in the world. And millions are still out of work. And we're grappling with the legacy of systemic racism, which has kept us for too many years from realizing our full share of the American dream for so many Americans. Today we're dealing with multiple national crises all at once. We need real leadership, and we need it now. We need leadership that recognizes the real threat of this pandemic, that doesn't just wave a white flag of surrender like the president has. We need leadership that brings everyone to the table, to rebuild an economy that works for working families, creates millions of good-paying jobs for the future. We need leadership that strives to finally deliver on the founding principles, ensure that all men are not only equal at their creation, but treated equally throughout their lives. Because this is a challenge we're unwilling to postpone. Folks, I refuse to postpone. The soul of America is at stake in this election. That's the reason I decided to run. That's why I stand united with every single Democrat in our shared mission to beat Donald Trump and restore decency, dignity, and leadership to the White House. We have to do more than just beat Donald Trump. We have to keep the House of Representatives, and we have to win the United States Senate. And we have to lead and deliver meaningful change for the millions of people who are hurting all across this nation. That means we need strong state parties, strong county parties, strong democratic organizations at all levels across every single state. The stakes have never been higher, and that's not an exaggeration. So we have to work harder than we've ever worked. We need to stand up as a nation, to stand with the Black community and the Latino community, the Asian, Pacific, and Pacific Islander community, to stand with workers, to stand with every person who's ever been knocked down, counted out, or left behind. If we stand together as one America, we'll win the battle for the soul of this country. Our children are counting on us. We can do this, I am positive. This is the United States of America. There's not a single thing we're unable to do when we do it together. So thank you, and let's get to work.